In 1924, on the northern side of Everest, two climbers, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine, head upward into the clouds. They are seen only a few hundred meters from the summit, and then never again. No radio call, no footprints, just a white, blinding silence. They are gone. After that, Everest becomes a myth, a mountain that does not forgive audacity. By the early 1930s, it has already taken dozens of lives. Climbers whisper to each other, maybe the mountain simply does not let you pass. And then, in 1933, there appears a man who does not understand the word no. Maurice Wilson, 35 years old, a former soldier. He was the only one from his unit to survive the First World War, and later he somehow recovered from tuberculosis. Death had walked past him twice, and that convinced him he could not be touched. He says, "I'll go up, alone. No team, no experience. I'll fly there first, then walk the rest." London to Everest, more than 7,000 kilometers. In 1933, when planes still broke apart in strong winds and maps looked like sketches made by children. It is the equivalent of building your own rocket today, flying to Mars, and then trying to build a house there. The newspapers laugh, scientists argue, but Maurice is not joking. He is a man who has already walked through war and illness, for whom fear is a feeling long dead. He believes he can reach a place where the air cannot hold a breath, and dreams are sharp enough to kill. But to understand who he really was, we need to go back to the beginning. Because this story is not like any other. Not then, not now. Bradford, England, 1898. A boy is born into the family of a textile mill owner, Maurice Wilson, an ordinary child from a well-off home. His future seems written: university, a job at the family mill, a quiet life among machines and accounting ledgers. But at 18, Maurice makes a choice that changes everything. It is 1916. The First World War is tearing Europe apart, and in the end, about 20 million people will die. Maurice could stay safe. Instead, he walks into the recruitment office, voluntarily. His father is stunned. Why? You already have everything. But Maurice has already decided. He is sent to Flanders, the Western Front, a place where mud, trenches, and death have become routine. And this is where something happens that will break him forever. July 1917, the Battle of Passchendaele. If you have never heard that name, consider yourself lucky. It is one of the bloodiest battles in the history of war. 4 months of non-stop fighting. Rain turns the battlefield into an ocean of liquid mud. Men drown in shell craters, literally drown, as if in a swamp. Maurice fights as part of an infantry unit, 20 men. Young guys, most of them not even 25. They move forward under artillery fire, and then the world turns into hell. Shells explode one after another. The ground erupts in pillars, screams, chaos. When the smoke finally lifts, Maurice looks around. He is alone. Imagine that. Out of 20 men, only he is still alive. The entire unit is wiped out in minutes. He lies in the mud, concussed, half deaf. Bodies of his friends beside him. Why him? Why was he the one who survived? That question will follow him for the rest of his life. But the war is not done with him yet. Maurice keeps fighting. For bravery, he is awarded the Military Cross, one of the highest honors in the British Army. But the price of that medal is unbearable. By the end of the war, he comes home. But he is not the same Maurice who left 4 years earlier. His left arm is damaged by shrapnel, a wound that never fully heals. The pain is constant. His fingers barely move. Doctors can only shrug. The best they can offer is to make the suffering slightly less. But that is not all. His lungs are failing too. Tuberculosis. In the early 20th century, that diagnosis was almost a death sentence. There were no real medicines yet. Treatment meant rest, fresh air, and a hope that bordered on prayer. Most patients died within a few years. And then there was what doctors of that era called shell shock. Today we know it as post-traumatic stress. Nightmares, sleepless nights, sudden waves of panic. Maurice wakes up drenched in sweat, hearing explosions, seeing the faces of the men who never returned. After a war like that, no one comes back the same, certainly not whole. He tries to live a normal life. He finds work, but never stays anywhere for long. He moves from city to city, job to job, rented room to rented room, London, Manchester, back to Bradford. Everywhere he goes, it feels like he is running. His family tries to help, but he refuses. His friends drift away, talking to him becomes harder with every passing month. Maurice becomes a solitary man, someone who returned from the war alive on the outside, but emptied out on the inside. By the early 1930s, he is in a free fall. No money, no home, no future. The tuberculosis worsens. Doctors tell him plainly, "You have a few years at most. Go to a sanatorium, spend what remains in peace." But Maurice is not the kind of man who surrenders, even when surrender is the only reasonable answer. 1932. Maurice lies in a cheap rented room on the outskirts of London. The coughing never stops. Every breath feels like a blade sliding into his chest. He is losing weight, losing strength. The mirror shows a worn-out stranger. And then, by chance, he comes across a small book about self-healing and the power of inner will. The author insists that a person can fight illness by changing the way they treat their body and their mind. Does it sound absurd? Maybe. But Maurice is already standing at the edge. He has nothing left to lose. He decides to try. He changes his daily habits, withdraws from everyone, and focuses entirely on recovery. He believes, truly believes, that he can get better. Week by week, he starts to improve. The coughing eases, his breathing steadies, the fever fades. After a month, the doctors cannot believe what they are seeing. The illness has retreated. It is not a miracle, but it is rare enough that no one can explain how it happened. For the medicine of that time, it borders on mysticism. For Maurice, already scarred in mind and spirit, it becomes a revelation. He survived the war, the only man left from his unit. Now he has beaten a disease that was considered a slow execution. After all of that, he becomes convinced. Nothing happens by accident. He is different. He has a purpose for still being alive. Something clicks inside him. If death stepped aside for him twice, once in the trenches and once in that London room, then he must test whether he can defeat it where almost no one can. On the roof of the world, on Everest. The idea comes suddenly. Maurice reads in a newspaper about a new British expedition to Everest. A team of professionals, months of preparation, tons of gear. And then a thought. Why? Why an army of men when one might go alone? He studies everything he can find, maps, reports, photographs from earlier attempts. The more he learns, the more certain he becomes. It is possible, not for everyone, just for him. And so, the plan forms. To climb Everest alone, no team, no experience, no support. Not for fame, not for records, for himself. He has looked death in the eyes twice and survived. Now he wants to face it one last time, at the top of the world. His friends tap their temples. Acquaintances laugh. Even strangers in pubs shake their heads when he mentions his plan. But Maurice does not listen. His decision is already made. He goes to the library, pulls out an atlas, finds Everest on the map, traces the route with his finger. England, Europe, the Middle East, India, Tibet, thousands of kilometers, closed borders, mountains, deserts, jungles. A reasonable person would stop right there. Too difficult, too expensive, too dangerous. But Maurice Wilson stopped being reasonable a long time ago. Spring of 1933, Maurice rents a small hall in a London hotel, the kind of room where pilots and adventurers like to gather. He sends letters to newspaper offices, signing them simply, "A British aviator preparing an unprecedented expedition." That alone is enough to spark attention. The country loves stories about madmen, especially if courage is involved. Journalists arrive out of curiosity. Who is this man promising a sensation? Maurice steps out to meet them, thin, eyes burning, wearing a worn-out suit. He speaks calmly, without the slightest hesitation. "I am going to climb Everest, alone, without a team." Silence fills the room, then laughter. Someone flips open a notebook. The hunt for quotes begins. "Do you have any mountaineering experience?" "No." "Have you ever been in the mountains at all?" "I passed through the Alps once, on a train, through a tunnel." The reporters exchange looks, as if the man in front of them has lost his mind. But Wilson keeps going. He lays out his plan. Fly to the base of Everest, land his aircraft on a glacier, then climb from there on foot. "Do you even know how to fly?" someone calls out from the back of the room. Maurice smiles. "Not yet, but I will." The room explodes with laughter. Someone is scribbling furiously. This is the story of a lifetime. Others just shake their heads. In front of them stands a man who seriously intends to buy an airplane, learn to fly it, make it to the Himalayas, land at something like 7,000 meters, and then walk to the summit. No experience, no equipment, no team. And the next day, a sensation. Newspapers hit the stands with headlines like, "A madman challenges Everest," "One man against the killer mountain," "A British climber plans to conquer Chomolungma alone." The public splits in two. Professionals call him reckless, delusional, a publicity seeker. The Royal Geographical Society rushes to distance itself. Mr. Wilson does not represent British mountaineering. But ordinary people do not see a madman. They see a hero. Factory workers collect small donations for him. Women send letters, wool socks, wishes of good fortune. They see in him something familiar, an ordinary person who refuses to bow his head. It is 1933. The world is still reeling from the Great Depression. Millions unemployed, hopes lost, a generation disappointed, and suddenly, a man who says, "It does not matter who you are or what you can do. What matters is that you do not give up." The newspapers begin to report on his every step. Maurice becomes famous, not because he is a professional, but because he is nobody. A nobody who has decided to attempt the impossible. Mountaineers are horrified. Everest does not forgive mistakes. Even the best, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine, never came back. In 1924, they were seen just a few hundred meters below the summit. And then, nothing, no trace, no signal. Their bodies were found only decades later, high on the mountain, in a place where breathing itself becomes an act of defiance. For the professionals, it was a warning. The mountain does not tolerate arrogance. For Maurice, it was a challenge. He does not listen. He is already living in the future, in a place where the wind quiets, and a person does not conquer the mountain, but conquers himself. And the most surprising thing is that he actually begins. April of 1933. Maurice walks into the London Aero Club. The administrator looks at him with doubt. "You want to learn to fly in 2 months, well enough to fly from England to the Himalayas?" Maurice nods. "Exactly that." The instructor spreads his hands. Normally, the course takes at least half a year. You need dozens of hours in the air. You have to learn navigation, weather patterns, emergency procedures. And he wants to master all of that in 8 weeks, but Morris insists, and he pays in advance. Cash. The last money he has. He trains like a man possessed, every day, for hours. Theory in the morning, flights during the day, more theory at night. The instructors shake their heads. This man is either a genius or someone calmly preparing to die. His first solo flight. Maurice takes off. Everything goes fine. But during landing, something goes wrong. The plane tips forward. The landing gear collapses. The aircraft skids and falls onto its side right on the runway. Maurice climbs out of the cockpit, bruised all over. The instructor runs toward him. "You're alive? Good God, that was a miracle." Maurice dusts himself off, looks at the wrecked plane, and says, "When do we start the next lesson?" The instructor is stunned. "You almost died just now. You need a break. You need to understand what went wrong." But Maurice is already walking toward another aircraft. There is no time for breaks. 2 months later, he earns his pilot's license. The minimum level, the absolute beginner's certificate, just enough not to crash immediately after takeoff. Professional pilots have a name for men like him: suicides. Too confident, too inexperienced. He needs a plane. Maurice finds a used Gypsy Moth biplane, a light 2-seater with an open cockpit. Its top speed is modest, and its range is a little over 1,000 kilometers. To reach India, he will need at least a dozen refueling stops. Where he got the money is unclear. Maurice said he spent his last savings, though rumors claim that after the press conference, a few wealthy admirers quietly helped him. Loans, donations, people simply wanting to be part of the story. One way or another, he gets the plane. And then he does something that convinces everyone he has lost his mind. He paints a name on the fuselage: Everest, a wordplay. Everest, ever rest, eternal struggle, wrestling the mountain itself. Now he has a plane and a target. There is no way back. His friends beg him to stop. This is madness. You will crash somewhere over the Mediterranean, or in the mountains of Iran, or in the desert. There are 1,000 ways to die, and not a single way to survive. Maurice doesn't listen. In his mind, he is already standing on the summit. May of 1933, Croydon Airfield in southern England. Maurice sits in the cockpit of his biplane. On his knees lies a school atlas, literally a school atlas, bought for pocket change in a bookshop. On the map, England, India, and between them, 7,000 kilometers. No aviation charts, no radio navigation, no communications. Just an atlas, a compass, and faith. The mechanics check the engine one last time. One of them leans toward him. "Are you sure?" It's not too late to cancel. Maurice starts the engine. The propeller spins. He puts on his goggles and adjusts his scarf. He shouts over the roar of the engine, "See you on Everest!" The plane rolls down the runway, lifts off, gains height. Within a minute, it is just a speck above the channel. The newspapers the next morning print the photograph of his takeoff. "Madman sets out for the Himalayas." Half the readers are inspired. The other half are certain this is the last time he will ever be seen alive. But they are wrong. Maurice Wilson is not dead. He has only just begun. In 1933, the idea of flying from London to Everest sounded like science fiction. The planes of that era were unreliable, with weak engines, short range, and almost no navigation. For a modern person, it would be like trying to reach Mars in a homemade rocket. Maurice lifts off from London and draws a line across the entire continent, France, Italy, then across the Mediterranean into North Africa, Egypt. From there, he heads east, Suez, Arabia, Baghdad, the Persian Gulf, Bahrain, Karachi, and then through India toward Calcutta and Darjeeling at the foot of the Himalayas. Even if he had only reached that point, it would already have been enough to call it a feat. Anyone else in his place would have stopped, bathed in fame, given interviews, and collected offers from sponsors. He could have lived as a hero, a man who had proved the impossible more than once. But for Maurice, this is only the beginning. The first stretch, France. Maurice flies over the channel, gripping the control stick. The wind slams into his face. An open cockpit means no protection at all. The cold cuts straight through him, but he keeps flying. He lands in Paris, refuels. Journalists are already there. "How do you feel?" Maurice smiles. "Just fine. Next, the Alps." And this is where the real test begins. The Alps are unforgiving even for experienced pilots. Mountains rising nearly 4,000 meters. Narrow valleys, sudden, violent air currents. One wrong move and you fall like a stone. Maurice climbs above the clouds. The compass points southeast. Visibility is zero. He flies blind, trusting his calculations. The fuel gauge is dropping. He needs a place to land. The clouds break. Italy unfolds below him. He touches down on a small airfield near Turin, refuels, and takes off again. The Mediterranean. Maurice flies along the coast. Below, blue water, white sails of fishing boats. Beautiful, almost peaceful. But it is an illusion. Somewhere over southern Italy, the weather turns. The sky darkens. The wind rises. Maurice flies straight into a storm. The plane starts to buck and drop. Up, down, sideways. Rain lashes like bullets. Visibility shrinks to just a few meters. Maurice grips the controls, trying to keep the aircraft on course. The altimeter jumps wildly. The compass spins uselessly. He cannot tell which way is up and which is down. Classic disorientation, the thing that kills pilots more often than engine failure. But he does not panic. Remember Passchendaele? He has seen worse. This is just another test. After 20 minutes, the storm eases. Maurice breaks through the clouds. Greece lies below him. He is alive. The plane is intact. He keeps going. The Middle East, Turkey, Syria, Iraq. The temperature climbs toward 40 degrees. The sun melts paint from the wings. In the open cockpit, it feels like sitting inside an oven. His lips split. His eyes water from wind and dust. He lands in Baghdad. People stare at him like he has fallen from the sky. A white man in a tiny aircraft, flying toward India across the desert. They have seen many things, but not this. And somewhere between Baghdad and Basra, the thing happens that should have killed him again. Maurice is flying over nothing but sand. No roads, no villages, not even a shadow. Just dunes to the horizon and sky burning the wings. Then the engine coughs, at first softly, then louder, choking and stumbling. The motor gasps, and suddenly the silence of the desert becomes overwhelming. The RPM drops, the sound changes. Something is wrong. Maurice checks the gauges. Oil pressure is erratic, temperature rising. The engine dies. Complete silence. Only the whistle of the wind through the biplane struts. The aircraft slips into a glide. Altitude 1,000 meters, 900, 800. He needs to land. But below him, only sand. Maurice picks the flattest stretch he can see, lowers the flaps, brings the aircraft down. The wheels touch the dune. The plane bounces, touches again, then stops. He sits in the cockpit, alive, whole, alone in a desert. The nearest settlement is 50 kilometers away. Water for 1 day, food for even less. He does not wait for rescue. He climbs out of the cockpit and examines the engine. The oil pump has seized. It has to be taken apart. Picture this. He is alone in the sand, heat above 40 degrees, with only a basic set of tools. And he starts dismantling an aircraft engine. For 2 days he works under the sun, removes the cowling, unscrews the pump, finds the problem. The filter is clogged, cleanse it, reassembles it, checks everything, tries the starter, the engine roars, it works. Maurice rolls forward across the dunes. The plane gathers speed, lifts, and he is in the sky again. One reporter would later write, "This man is simply too stubborn to die." By the end of May, he reaches India. 7,000 kilometers, dozens of landings, storms, breakdowns, navigation by a school atlas. He has done what everyone said was impossible, a kind of real-world fantasy. The newspapers in Britain erupt. The madman from the sky reaches India. Wilson conquers the desert, hundreds of articles, his photographs on front pages. People follow every step. Workers discuss him in pubs. Housewives show his portrait to their children. This is what it means not to give up. Even the skeptics begin to hesitate. Perhaps he really will reach Everest. Maurice lands in Karachi. A crowd greets him like a hero. Journalists swarm him. What comes next? When will you fly to the mountain? Maurice smiles, exhausted, sunburned, thin, but glowing with triumph. Soon, he says, very soon. But he has no idea that the hardest part is still ahead. Because it is one thing to conquer the sky, and another thing entirely to conquer the system. Everest in 1933 is not just a mountain, it is a battlefield of empires. Britain considers Everest its prize. The Royal Geographical Society organizes the expeditions. The best climbers, huge budgets, years of preparation. Reaching the summit is a matter of national pride. Whoever stands there first proves the superiority of their nation. And then along comes this strange man. No team, no permit, no blessing from the establishment. He simply gets in a plane and flies, as if the rules do not apply to him. To ordinary people, Maurice is a hero. The little man against the system, pure will, pure adventure. But to those in power, he is a problem, unpredictable, uncontrolled, dangerous. The trouble starts as early as Baghdad. Maurice lands, asks for fuel and clearance to continue. Officials check his papers, examine his planned route, and slowly shake their heads. You cannot fly any farther. You don't have the required permits. You have no authorization from the proper authorities. You must return to England and do this properly. Maurice tries to explain. I am heading for Everest. I have limited time. Every delay threatens the entire attempt. The officials do not care. Rules are rules. Maurice spends the night in a hotel. The officials assume the situation is handled. But the next morning, when they arrive at the airfield, the runway is empty. The plane is gone. Maurice took off at dawn. No permission, no stamps, no paperwork. He simply climbed into the cockpit and left. Bahrain is the same story. Local authorities have already received a telegram from Baghdad. Stop the British pilot. Do not provide fuel. Detain him. But Maurice has learned by now. He lands at night, buys fuel from market traders, refuels himself, and takes off again before the officials even learn he has arrived. One British diplomat later writes in his report, Mr. Wilson shows complete disregard for established procedure. He behaves as though borders and regulations apply only to other people. And he is right. Maurice truly believes that. He has crawled through the trenches of Passchendaele. He has survived tuberculosis. He has flown from England to India in a plane he learned to pilot in 2 months. To him, bureaucracy is just another obstacle. Annoying, yes, but beatable. In India, the situation changes. The British administration receives orders from London. The Royal Geographical Society is alarmed. This man could undermine the reputation of British mountaineering. If he dies, it will be a scandal. If, by some miracle, he succeeds, it will be worse. Maurice lands in Delhi. He is met not by reporters, but by police. Passport, please. Aircraft papers. Authorization for flights in restricted border regions. Maurice has no authorization. He tells the truth plainly. I am going to Everest. I need access to Nepal or Tibet. The official looks at him as if he's dealing with a dangerous lunatic. Nepal is closed. Tibet is closed. Everest sits between them. No one goes there without government permission, and only official expeditions ever receive such permission. Maurice insists, I have crossed 7,000 kilometers. I cannot stop now. The official's voice is ice. The law is the law. Your aircraft is confiscated until further notice. Imagine it. Maurice has made it to India. He is only a few hundred kilometers from his goal. And they tell him, it's over. You're not flying anywhere. For most people, that would be the end of the story. Turn back, go home, admit defeat. But Maurice is not most people. He has already proven that again and again. And he is about to prove it once more. If he cannot reach Everest by air, he will go on foot. Because at this point, it is no longer about the mountain. It is about the simple fact that he cannot stop. He has come too far, given too much. Turning back now would mean admitting that everything was for nothing. The war, the illness, the flight, all of it. And he has never been the strongest. Only the one who refuses to quit. Delhi, June of 1933. Maurice's plane sits on the airfield under guard. The authorities have made it clear. You will not fly any farther. The matter is closed. He has no money for lawyers, no government contacts, no powerful friends to push back against the system. But he does have a map, and he has his own 2 feet. Maurice studies the geography. Everest stands on the border between Nepal and Tibet. 2 possible approaches. Nepal, the southern route through Kathmandu. Tibet, the northern route through Darjeeling and beyond. He chooses Nepal. It seems simpler, closer. Fewer formalities, he thinks. He buys a train ticket to the foothills. The journey takes several days. Heat, dust. The carriage is packed with people, animals, goods. He sits by the window, watching villages slide past, thinking, soon I will see the mountain. The Nepal border, a small checkpoint. Maurice approaches a guard, explains, I want to enter Nepal. I must reach Everest. The guard looks at him, puzzled. Do you have permission from the government of Nepal? No. But can I get it here? The guard shakes his head. Nepal is closed to foreigners, especially to anyone trying to reach the border regions. You need an official invitation. It takes months. Through the consulate in Kathmandu, Maurice tries to bargain. I have traveled 7,000 kilometers. I cannot just turn around. The guard is unmoved. Orders are orders. The border does not open without permission. Maurice returns to the nearest town, Sikkim, a small principality at the foot of the Himalayas. He checks into a cheap lodge, asks the locals, how do I cross into Nepal unofficially? They shake their heads. Impossible. Patrols, mountain terrain. If they catch you, prison or deportation. More likely, they shoot you as a trespasser. Maurice realizes Nepal is closed. That leaves Tibet. Tibet is a sealed world. No entry without permission from the Dalai Lama's government. Official British expeditions spend years negotiating their way in. Letters, gifts, diplomatic favors. Maurice has none of that. No connections, no permits, no money. He studies maps, searching for a crack in the wall. There is only one, through Darjeeling, a mountain outpost in northern India. From there, narrow trails lead into the passes, used by smugglers and herders who live beyond any border. At the market, he buys warm clothing, food supplies, and finds porters, 3 Sherpa men willing to travel for good pay. They are mountain people, born in thin air, raised on steep slopes. They know these paths like the lines on their palms. They do not ask questions. They do not care who he is or why he wants to go where no one goes. Work is work. From one merchant, Maurice learns about the Jelip Pass, about 4,500 meters above sea level. Patrols are rare there, especially at night. A chance. Late August of 1933. Night. Maurice and the 3 Sherpas leave Darjeeling. A narrow trail, wind, cliffs, freezing rain. They walk in silence, placing each step with care so they do not fall into the dark. By dawn, they cross the pass. India behind them, Tibet ahead. No one has seen them. Maurice Wilson has slipped past the system once again. He stays in Darjeeling until spring of 1934, waiting for the right moment, studying routes. He understands one thing clearly. A European stands out in Tibet instantly. The solution is disguise. He wears a dark robe, a broad hat, grows a beard, smudges his face with soot. From a distance, just another wandering monk. April of 1934. The four set out. At first, gentle mountain paths. Then the real mountains begin. 3,000 meters, 4. The air thins, breathing grows heavy. The old tuberculosis stirs again. The porters beg him to stop, but Maurice pushes on. The monsoon is coming, and time is running out. They hide from patrols at night, rest in caves by day. Once, they nearly get caught when a group of mounted guards appears on the ridge above them. A week later, they see the first great peak. Then another pass, 5,000 meters. Maurice is nearly collapsing from exhaustion, but he refuses to stop. And then, at sunrise, they see it. Rongbuk Monastery. The last human settlement before Everest. Stone walls, prayer flags snapping in the wind, cold air that tastes like snow, and silence. Mallory and Irvine stood here before their final attempt. Maurice and the Sherpas pretend to be pilgrims. The monks offer them shelter for the night. Everest is only about 20 kilometers away. In the morning, he packs his rucksack. The porters are terrified now. He has no training, no proper equipment, no margin for error. One of them tells him, "Sahib, this is madness. You will die." Maurice smiles. "I have heard that before, in London, in India, in the desert. Every time they told me it was impossible, and every time I proved them wrong." He steps out of the monastery, walks toward the glacier. Snow crunches under his boots. The wind cuts his face. He begins the ascent, alone, inexperienced, with almost no chance, but utterly convinced that willpower is stronger than the mountain. Maurice begins the ascent in late April, the perfect window. The monsoon has not arrived yet. The weather is relatively calm, but relatively on Everest still means brutal. The first kilometers follow the Rongbuk Glacier. The glacier is not a smooth surface. It is a maze of ice, crevasses wide enough to swallow a man, tens of meters deep. One wrong step, and you disappear into a frozen grave. The Sherpas move carefully. They probe the snow with their staffs. They skirt around suspicious patches. Maurice follows behind them. His pack is heavy. A tent, a sleeping bag, food for about a week. Roughly 30 kilograms on his back. At around 5,500 meters, they set the first camp. A small tent on an endless field of snow. The wind never stops. The temperature sits well below freezing. Maurice crawls into his sleeping bag and tries to get warm, but the cold finds every gap, every seam, every breath. In the morning, they continue, higher, 6,000 meters. This is where climbers enter what they call the discomfort zone. The air thins. Every breath is work. His head pounds constantly. Nausea comes and goes. Appetite disappears entirely. The Sherpas slow down. They are mountain-born, used to thin air. But even for them this is difficult. One of them says, "Sahib, it is dangerous to push on. The body needs time to adjust. We must go down, rest, and come up again." That is how every expedition does it. But Maurice will not wait. Time is slipping. The weather can turn in a heartbeat. He insists, "We keep going. 6,300 meters. The slope steepens. The snow is deep. Every step sinks him to the knee. He has to heave the leg free, take another step, and sink again. It drains everything from him. Maurice begins to fall behind. His breath breaks apart into short, ragged bursts. His heart hammers like it's trying to break out of his chest. He has to stop every few steps, lean on his ice axe, drag air back into his lungs. The Sherpas can see it clearly now. He is at his limit. They urge him to turn back, but Maurice shakes his head. Just a little more, just a little higher. 6,500 meters. They set their second camp here. The Sherpas refuse to go farther. This is their boundary. Beyond this point is death. Maurice looks upward. The summit is still more than 2,500 meters away. More than a third of the climb remains. But he believes, truly believes. The next morning, the Sherpas descend. They promise to wait below. Maurice stays behind. For the first time in his life, he is truly alone on the mountain. The silence is absolute, only the wind and the slow crunch of snow under his boots. He tries to continue upward, 10 steps. Stop, breathe, another 10 steps, stop again. The progress is almost nothing. By midday, he has gained perhaps 100 meters, at most. His strength is fading, his head swims. Black spots flicker in his vision, and then the weather turns. Suddenly, as it always does on Everest, clouds crawl up from below, swallowing everything in minutes. Visibility drops to zero. The wind rises, the temperature drops. Snow begins to fall. Maurice understands immediately. He has to get back to the tent. Now. Getting lost here means death. He turns around, tries to follow his own tracks, but the wind is already covering them. Snow stings his face. The wind howls like something alive. He finds the tent more by instinct than by navigation. Crawls inside, secures the entry flap. The storm rages outside. The fabric shakes. It feels like the entire tent will tear away and vanish into the white. The storm lasts through the night. Maurice stays inside the sleeping bag, trying to hold on to his body heat. He eats a little, biscuits, a piece of chocolate, drinks melted snow, waits the second day. The storm still roars. Food dwindles. Fuel for melting snow is down to a day or two. On the third day, the wind finally drops. Maurice crawls outside. Everything is buried, snow up to his waist. His fingers are numb. His face is frost-burned. His lips split and bleeding. He takes stock of the situation. Little food, even less strength. Going higher is impossible. He has to go down. Maurice packs what he can. He leaves the tent. It is too heavy to carry. He takes only the essentials and begins the descent. Every step downward is agony. His legs do not obey him. He falls more than once, slides 20 meters at a time before stopping. By evening, he reaches the lower camp. The Sherpas stare at him in shock. "Sahib, we thought you were dead." 3 days of storm. Maurice collapses into the snow. He cannot walk anymore. He just lies there, breathing. The Sherpas help him into the tent. They rub his frozen hands, give him hot tea. One of them says, "That is it, Sahib. You tried. Now we go down, back to Rongbuk. You are alive. That is what matters." Maurice is silent, lying on his back, staring at the ceiling of the tent, thinking. In the morning, the Sherpas wake, expecting the order to descend. Instead, Maurice says something else. "I will go again." The Sherpas cannot believe what they heard. "What? You are barely alive. Your hands are frostbitten. You spent 3 days in the storm." Maurice sits there, looking at the mountain, his voice quiet but solid. "I did not come all this way to stop halfway. I will climb, even if it is the last thing I do." The Sherpas exchange glances. This man is gone. There is no changing him. One of them whispers to the others in his own language, "He is already dead." He just does not know it yet. Maurice rests for 3 days, eats, sleeps, tries to recover his strength. On the 4th day, he packs his rucksack again. The Sherpas ask, "Should we go with you?" Maurice shakes his head. "No, I go alone, completely alone. You will stay here. If I do not return in a week, then do not wait any longer." The Sherpas say nothing. They understand. This is a farewell. Maurice shoulders the pack, grips the ice axe, takes a step toward the slope. The second attempt begins, and this time, he is walking into the place from which no one returns. Maurice climbs slowly. 1 step, stop, inhale, exhale, another step. At 6,500 meters, every movement is work. He passes his previous camp. The tent is still there, buried in snow. He keeps going. The slope grows steeper. His boots slip. He has to hack footholds with his ice axe. 6,800 meters, 7,000. This is another world entirely. Up here, the air is something different. You breathe, but your lungs do not fill. It is like trying to breathe through a narrow reed. There is only a third of the oxygen you get at sea level. The body begins to suffocate, slowly, inevitably. Maurice makes 5 steps, stops, breathes for a minute, 5 more steps, a minute. The progress is agonizingly slow. The headache becomes unbearable. Like someone tightening iron clamps around his skull. It is cerebral swelling. full altitude sickness. The body is failing. He sets up a camp. 7,000 meters, higher than anyone had ever gone without oxygen at that time. He takes out his journal, tries to write. His hand shakes. The letters tilt and blur. 21st of May. High, very high, cold. Short lines, fragmented thoughts. The mind no longer functions normally. At this altitude, cognition collapses, logic falters, decision-making breaks down, memory slips. Maurice looks at the words, reads them again, and cannot understand what he wrote 5 minutes before. He tries once more. The summit is close, must go. Night at 7,000 meters, temperature around -35. The wind cuts through the tent as if through cloth skin. Maurice lies in the sleeping bag. He cannot get warm. His teeth chatter. His whole body trembles. He closes his eyes. Hears a whisper. Very faint at first, like someone speaking just outside the tent wall. He listens. Maybe the Sherpas have come back? He opens his eyes. There is nothing. Only the wind. He closes his eyes again. The voices grow clearer. Now he recognizes them. The men from Passchendaele, the ones who died. They call him by name. Maurice. Maurice. Come on. He jolts upright, looks around. No one. At this altitude, the brain is starving. Hallucinations are common. Climbers call it the third man effect, the sense that someone is walking beside you. Maurice notices a glow, a soft flicker behind the tent wall, like someone shining a lantern. He steps outside, only stars, snow, silence. He returns. The light moves again. He reaches toward it, then realizes his mind is playing tricks. Morning, he can barely stand. Severe frostbite. His breathing is ragged. He takes out the journal and writes with a shaking hand. Going higher. The summit. The summit is still 1,500 meters away. But his body is breaking down. His mind is drifting. Anyone else would understand. It is time to descend. But Maurice keeps climbing, slowly, step by step, like moving through a dream. Ahead, he sees shapes, figures on the slope, walking upward. He calls out to them. They do not answer. He moves closer. Nothing. Only snow and stone. He laughs or cries. He cannot tell which. His voice sounds strange, not his own. He falls, lies in the snow, cold, so cold. He closes his eyes. The voices return. They say, "Get up. Keep going. You are almost there." He gets up, walks. How long? An hour? A day? He does not know. He writes in the journal, then forgets. Writes again. The same words. Summit. Close. But the summit is not close. It is still as far as it was. Down below at 6,000 meters, the Sherpas wait. 3 days, 4, 5. They watch the mountain. No movement, no sign. One of them says he will not come back. The mountain has taken him. Another shakes his head. Maybe he is alive. We wait. But the cold is brutal. The food is almost gone. Fear spreads. This mountain is not just high. It is sacred. It punishes those who challenge it. On the 6th day, the youngest Sherpa says, "I am leaving. I cannot stay here anymore." The head Sherpa tries to stop him. "We promised to wait." The younger one shouts, "He is dead! We are waiting for a dead man. I will not stay here." He grabs his pack and heads down. Toward the monastery, toward warmth, toward life. The 2 remaining Sherpas stay 1 more day, 1 more night. On the 7th day, the elder finally says, "Enough. If he were alive, he would have returned. We have done all we can." They break camp, take their gear, they leave Maurice's tent, leave a little food, just in case a miracle happens. Then they go. Down, away from the mountain that kills. Maurice returns 2 days later, barely alive, frostbitten, exhausted. He reached about 7,300 meters. Beyond that, his body failed. He turned back, crawled, fell, stood again, crawled more. He reaches the camp, sees the tent, feels relief. They waited. He steps inside, empty. No one. He stands in the silence, looking around, not understanding. They are gone. They left him. Alone. At 6,000 meters, hundreds of kilometers from any town, no support, no help. Maurice sits down in the snow, takes off his pack, takes out his journal, writes with a trembling hand. Alone. He cannot write more. The pencil falls. The journal closes. He sits in the tent. The wind howls outside. Above him, the mountain that did not let him pass. Below, the long road back. But he has no strength left for either. Maurice Wilson came here to prove that a person could overcome circumstance. But circumstance proves stronger. The light fades. May nights on Everest are long and brutally cold. The temperature falls toward 40 below. He looks at his boots, heavy, frozen solid. The laces are stiff with ice. His fingers barely move. He tries to loosen the knot. It will not budge. He pulls at the laces until the leather tears. He forces one boot off, then the other. He rubs his feet, trying to bring life back. Nothing changes. The frost has gone too deep. He crawls into the sleeping bag, pulls on everything he has, jacket, spare sweater, scarf. But the cold still finds him, sharp, relentless. His teeth chatter, his body shakes. He curls into himself, trying to trap warmth. But the body is no longer making any. Metabolism is shutting down. Hypothermia. He takes out the journal. The pencil slips from his hand. He picks it up. It slips again. His fingers are stiff and numb. Wooden. On the third try, he manages to hold it. Opens the journal, last page. The entries from the days before are there. Fragments, broken thoughts, wandering lines. He tries to write. What can he say? What is left? He slowly traces out the words. No strength left. 3 words, that is all. The pencil falls. The journal closes. Maurice lies inside the sleeping bag. His breathing becomes shallow. The breath slows. The heart slows and stops. Maurice Wilson dies quietly. No scream, no struggle. He simply falls asleep and does not wake. At 6,000 meters, in a tent rattling in the wind, alone, the way he lived. Spring of 1935. A year passes. A British expedition led by Eric Shipton ascends toward Everest. They scout the route, preparing for a future attempt. At 6,000 meters, one climber spots a tent. Old, torn, half buried in snow. He approaches, calls out. No answer. He opens the flap. Inside, a body, a man, a European, lying in his sleeping bag. One hand stretched out, holding a boot, as if he tried to put it on before the end. Beside him, a journal. The climber picks it up, opens it, reads the name on the first page, Maurice Wilson. Shipton examines the camp. The gear is scattered and painfully simple. A worn tent, wool clothing, boots without crampons, a basic ice axe. No oxygen. Wilson never used it. No ropes, no fixed lines, no partner. Shipton is stunned. This man tried to climb Everest almost in everyday clothes, without the equipment that even climbers of the 1930s called essential. He reads the journal, fragmented entries, dates, heights. The final page, no strength left. Shipton shakes his head. This man climbed here alone, with no experience, no team. He reached 7,000 meters, unbelievable and insane. One of the climbers asks, "What do we do with him?" Shipton looks around. Bringing the body down is impossible, too heavy, too dangerous. Up here, every kilogram is a trial. They carry the body outside, find a crack in the glacier, lay Maurice there, cover him with stones, a simple grave. The expedition takes the journal, records the discovery. Later, the reports will be written, and the newspapers will say, "Body of British adventurer found on Everest." But this was not an adventure, it was something else. Shipton will later tell his colleagues, "I have seen many brave men, but I have never seen determination like his. He had no chance. He knew that. And he went anyway." Reinhold Messner, the first man to climb Everest alone and without oxygen, will read about Maurice Wilson 45 years later. And he will say, "This man was ahead of his time. He tried to do what the world called impossible, and he almost succeeded." Maurice Wilson lies beneath stones on the slopes of Everest. His grave is still there, somewhere around 6,000 meters. The glacier is always moving. Perhaps his body has already sunk deeper. Perhaps one day it will appear again. The way Mallory's body surfaced after 75 years. But the story remained. The story of a man who did not know how to stop, who believed that will is stronger than circumstance, who went farther than anyone expected. He did not conquer Everest. He conquered something greater, the limit of human persistence. Maurice Wilson did not return, but he left proof that a person can go where no one is supposed to go, that the impossible is not a boundary, but a cost. The mountain took him, but it did not break him. Imagine another version of the story. May of 1934. Maurice Wilson stands on the summit of Everest, alone, without oxygen, without a team, without years of training, just a man, an ordinary one, with damaged lungs and frostbitten hands, standing on the roof of the world. What would that have changed? In 1934, mountaineering was a sport of the elite, like golf or polo today. Expensive expeditions, years of preparation, teams of porters, tons of equipment, and the official blessing of geographical societies. The entire system rested on one idea. Only the chosen few could reach Everest, the best of the best, trained, equipped, supported. And then this man appears, a textile worker from Bradford, a wounded veteran, a former tuberculosis patient, who learned to fly in 2 months, who crossed into Tibet disguised as a monk, who climbed toward the summit alone. That would have shattered everything. It would have proved that Everest does not belong to institutions, governments, or elite societies, that you do not need enormous funding, or prestige, or formal training. Only will. The Royal Geographical Society would have been thrown into crisis. All their expeditions, all their budgets, all their pride, outdone by a solitary amateur. The newspapers would have exploded. The madman has conquered Everest. Maurice would have become a hero to millions, the symbol that an ordinary person can do the impossible. He would have returned home, celebrated, wealthy. And then, knowing his nature, he would have gone to chase the next horizon, perhaps into the Royal Air Force once the Second World War began, not for duty, but for the sky. Today it is easy to say, he failed. He lacked preparation. His body gave out. The mountain won. His partners abandoned him. But perhaps the mountain simply did not let him pass. He was close, unbelievably close. Maurice Wilson did not conquer Everest, but he conquered the limits of human will. He proved that you can cross continents with nothing but a school atlas, that you can survive where survival should be impossible, that you can walk all the way to the line where humanity ends and the impossible begins. And maybe his defeat saved others. From him, the world learned. Everest does not forgive self-belief alone. To climb it, you need not just courage and desire, but knowledge, technique, preparation. Maurice Wilson was the first to prove that, and he paid for that lesson with his life. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay stood on the summit of Everest, officially, with a team, oxygen, radio support, and the backing of an entire nation. The world applauded. Everest had been conquered, but somewhere below, under layers of eternal snow, lies the man who tried 19 years earlier, alone, with no experience, no rope, no chance. Hillary read about him. Later he said, he was a madman, but a brave one. Maurice Wilson did not become the first. He gained no fame. He never saw the summit, but he remained in history. Today, almost 90 years later, we remember him, sitting in warmth, staring at a screen. And he walked there alone, where the air refuses to hold a breath, and every step may be the last. He proved something essential. The limit is not the height of the mountain. The limit is the moment you give up. Maurice never did, even when the price was his life. So, what do you think of his climb? Was he mad, or was he simply a person who went farther than anyone else was willing to go? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if the story of Maurice Wilson stayed with you, give this video a like.